Welcome, fam. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Working in Europe versus working in the US. Getting this one from Walter's World. Let's get into this video. Hello, everybody. Here we go. All right.
Hey there, fellow travelers, or should I say fellow worker abroaders?
Okay.
Mark here with Walter's World, and today what I'll talk about are some of the differences that Americans notice when they come to work in Europe. Because a lot of people, their dream is, I'm going to move to Europe, I'm going to work there, and everything's going to be great. And it can be. I've actually lived in Europe for like 12 years, 13 years, and worked in a lot of different places. I worked in Lithuania, I worked in Portugal, I worked in Austria, I've been all over, worked with the locals, been part of the team, had to pay the taxes and all those things. And I kind of want to go through some of the differences that American workers really kind of notice when they come to work in Europe. And sometimes you'll see the jokes that, oh, they get all the vacation time, haha. Yeah, that's true. But there's also some more serious things as well, okay? And I want to start with the one that people talk about the most. You have so much more time off when you work in Europe than when you work in the US. And I'm not just talking the vacation time they give you, I'm talking about just normal holidays they give you off, which is really nice because you can have a much better work-life balance when you're in Europe than in the US, okay? Because you just have more time to be you. You have more time to be with your family. You have more time to exist on your own without just having work be everything. And that's one of those nice things to it. So I think probably the biggest thing that people notice is just that amount of free time you do have. Because another thing that Americans notice when they come to Europe is work stops when work stops.
Okay. You get time to be you. That's one thing that he said. I'm like, oh, child, you don't do that in America. That ain't happening. Get time to be you, get time to spend with family, and it's not necessarily that you're taking some time off from work or it's your vacation time that you're getting off from work. There, you get to get so many other time off other than your vacation time. Oh, baby, no, that's what I'm talking about. Holiday leave, vacation leave, however you want to put it. Outside of that, you get so much time off from work. No. See, that's why I tell you, Europe and America is two different things when it comes on to that, because when you work here in America, don't think about getting no extra time off. Don't even think about your leave per se, which is messed up and it's yours. And work don't stop when work stop. Let's move on to the next point.
If work is 9 to 5, you work 9 to 5. You can be mid-sentence, it's 5 o'clock, we're out. And no one holds it against you. There's no like, oh, we need to stay in for the team. No, we're pulling an all-nighter tonight. We need you to work an extra 10 hours this weekend. No, that stuff doesn't happen here. It can happen, but it doesn't really happen. It's much more, oh, work's over. We didn't get it done. We didn't get it. Moving on till Monday. I got stuff to do this weekend. Bye. And that's it. There's the boundaries that are here. Like, work is not everything. You don't get defined by it, which is really kind of cool. Wow. So you're not staying late. You're not working the weekends. You're only there when the hours you're supposed to work, which is really nice. And I will say, another thing you notice is work is a bit slower.
When you're done, so you're telling me in Europe, when you're doing your work, and work, say, from 9 to 4, and 4 o'clock clocks, and you have a project doing, you can literally walk through the door and that's it. And nobody's getting flustered and nobody's getting mad in the UK or European region saying that, oh, you didn't finish that. Oh, you need to pull some overtime. Oh, you need to give me back extra 2 hours since seeing that you leave exactly 4 because what you were working on wasn't finished. You're telling me in Europe, when the bell dings or whatever it is when you're supposed to leave work, it don't matter. You just walk through the door and nobody's having a heart attack and the company is not falling down because the work wasn't finished. And you're not penalized or you're not suspended or you're not, your job or your position is not passed to somebody else who can handle the task. Try that in the US. Work stops when work stops. Oh no, in the US, if you have something doing and it's 5 o'clock and work is done, you better finish what you're doing. Whether it take you another 2-3 hours later, finish it up, wrap it up, and then you go home. And Even if you have something doing within the work hours and you're not finished, you don't necessarily get paid overtime. You don't.
Because you don't have that going overtime, doing all this stuff, things do take more time, and that's where a lot of Americans sometimes get frustrated with their European colleagues, because like, oh, can we just knock this project out and move on? Oh, why are you taking so long? Why you have a lunch break? You have a coffee break? Can we just move through? And so they get that US get that frustrated with the kind of the slow work kind of stuff, or at least I would say the not hurry up and rush kind of thing. It's like, hey, we're gonna get it done when we get it done. Don't worry about it. And that's the thing, is people, they're not worrying about it. It's not like work is everything. And I think that's a big thing to mention, is you are not defined by your work in Europe.
You are. Listen, work at a slower pace in Europe, and I can accept that. You know what? That's why persons in Europe, they're not burnout. When they go to work, they look forward to going to work. They're not stressing themselves. Yes, Raya? Listen to me, man. Here in America, a lot of people are burnt out because they're constantly going, oh, let's bang this out and move on to the next traffic, the next project. Traffic, you're damn right, it's a traffic. That's why they wouldn't understand working slower in the European region and getting frustrated. And that's why a lot of Americans are burnt out, because they don't know how to slow down. They don't know how to take a coffee break. They don't know, because that's the mindset here in America. Work. Get it done. There's no break. You're eating around your computer, you do it. So yeah, I love this one. You are not defined by your job. The difference between the working in the US and working in Europe, in America, you're defined by the job that you have.
In the US, it's like, I live to work. And here in Europe, it's more like I work to pay for the fantastic food. I mean, it's just part of life, but that's not my life.
Yep.
Like, I honestly can say, like, when I did my PhD and master's and stuff, when I did it in Europe, when I look back on it, I don't think of it like I did my PhD in Portugal. It was, I lived in Lisbon. Like, it was a life, and you had that separation, and you're not defined by it. And that's one of those things that's really nice, is that you can be you. Like, that's one of the things I really loved about working here. But one of the things that you'll notice that you might not like when you do work in Europe is you're not really truly friends with your coworkers. Now, you can be friendly with your coworkers, and you'll probably more likely to go get drinks on a Friday after work with people, but making that close friendship bond, it's not as much there here in Europe, because a lot of people, they live and work in the city they grew up in. So they have friends since they were little kids. They're still friends with their buddy from kindergarten, first grade, when they're 50 years old, 60 years old, 30 years old, 20 years old, whatever. And therefore, you as a foreigner coming in, it's hard to get into a friendship circle because they already have their friends. And that's why sometimes expats end up leaving destinations that are super cool because they're lonely. You live in a city with millions of people and you don't have friends. And it is really tough. That's why I'm saying sometimes it's easier, if you're going to be an expat in a place, to be an expat in a Paris, a London, a Milan, a Berlin, where a lot of people have come and moved to, but not just international expats coming there, but also people from all over Italy move to Milan. People from all over Germany move to Berlin. So they're looking for friends as well. So it's a little bit easier to make friends. But that is one of those things, is you might have it that you're not really super friends with your colleagues. And some of them you'll still call Herr Wolters after you've been working with them for 30 years. You're still Herr Wolters and not even on a first name sometimes. So do be aware of that. Now, it's not always the case. You can make friends, but I think it is one of those things that's important to mention, because finding that good friend base when you first move abroad is really important, so you have that social connection. Now, another thing that I will definitely...
See, that can be a big thing for a lot of people, and why people don't stick around, because having that support or having that friend base when you move from your country to somewhere else, I can see where that is coming from. But I heard this saying that you go to work, not to build friends, but to work and support your family. And it's the first time I heard that from somebody else, saying that in Europe, the workplace, they have a close friendship within the workplace. Because I've seen another video before, and they talk about people at work are not necessarily friends. You don't go there to hang out and be buddy, high and by when you see them out and about, and that's it. But I get what he's saying. Some of these places that you move to, these are persons that live in this area, never move out of this area, know everybody from, baby stage all the way up. So yeah, the friendship, that kind of friendship within, if they're in that job setting, is gonna be good for them. So as an outsider going in, you're gonna feel lonely. So it's a good idea that he said move to areas where there are more expats. You understand? It may not have to be coming from where you're from, but at least you can relate and you can get that support that is needed. Makes sense.
Definitely tell you is true is if you come and work in Europe, you do not make anywhere near the same amount of money as you do in the US. Like, that's why a lot of Europeans like going to the US, because they make a lot of money. They can get more stuff. And so you do have that. And so when you think about it, maybe that's something when you think about your retirement, you're thinking about, hey, what am I going to do in the future? You have to think about those things. That's why when I have students like, oh, Mark, I want to go work in Europe. Like, all right, well, do you have college loans? Because you still got to pay them off, and you might make as much money to pay it off as fast as you do in the US. But then they're like, yeah, but in Europe, we don't pay for our education, so it doesn't matter. Like, yeah, that's why there's a little bit of difference. But the pay gap is a real thing. Like between the US and the EU, I mean, I won't lie to you. Like some places you do get paid better. Switzerland, Germany, England, you get paid really well. Like those are like, okay, comparable, you're doing okay, but go work in Portugal, go work in Eastern Europe. Like the money is literally like a fraction of what you make in the US. So that's one thing I think is important to mention. However, you do get more with your money when you live in Europe, when you work in Europe, because you do have more benefits. Maybe you get paid a 13th month out of the year, or sometimes a 14th month out of the year. So those there, maybe you get credits for childcare, or you get credits for, transportation allowances. So there's a little bit more like freebies in Europe that they give with you versus just, oh, look, a pizza party, thanks, boss, that you get in the US. And kind of looking at things in...
The way he said that, a pizza party. But yeah, I've heard this a few times, that work in the European region doesn't necessarily pay you like how you would get paid here in the US. But then again, I've heard people say like your pay reach furthermore in the European region. It goes a far way than if you were, working in. But see, there you go again. You have to consider the pros and cons whenever time you're moving. It's that simple, because it's like, okay, when I leave, I get a tertiary education. When I get a job, will it sustain the lifestyle that I want to live within these European region that you choose to move to? That's something people should consider. So I'm on board with that. People need to look at the pros and cons, because don't get me wrong, working in America, you can see that money. You can. But there's no work-life balance. There's no you, and work defines who you are. And you don't work to live, you live to work. It's in the US. In the European region, I realize it's the flip. It's total opposite.
General, I know when I worked in Europe, I made less money than I did when I worked in the US, but I will say life in Europe is cheaper. I mean, living, existing, loving life is just cheaper in Europe than it is in the US. I mean, that's why I tell people all the time, if you're going to go on vacation, once you get to Europe, it is cheaper to enjoy Europe than it is to enjoy, the U.S. I mean, I'm in Torino, which is a relatively expensive city in Italy, and it's still cheaper than going to Orlando for me. Accommodation, going out to eat, it's better than there, right? And so you think about that, it's like, yeah, I don't make as much, but I don't need as much money as well, because you are more in the city and more things are going on, right? And that's why it's important to mention your transportation to work is a lot different. It's not a car-based society in Europe. You are switching to public transportation. Now, if you worked in the big city in the U.S., probably you might already use the L in Chicago or the trains, in New York. But public transportation isn't a thing in the U.S. And when you come to Europe, it becomes integrated into your thing. So you're learning when I need to take the bus. When does that metro go by? I remember when I lived in Berlin, I knew exactly where my S-Bahns were going. And I'm like, I gotta get up that escalator. Like, it's definitely different than, I gotta sit in the traffic jam to get to work. Now, don't get me wrong, you can get a car, and believe me, you drive in Europe, you're gonna be in a traffic jam every day because there's not a lot of space, but also just to get into work is a different experience. And you'll notice there's a reason why in the US, our cars have nice cup holders and really good stereo systems, because we sit in our cars all the time, we're drinking on our way. Whereas here in Europe, a shorter commute, but also with the crazy drivers and so many more packed things, you don't have time to change the channel. You don't have time to focus on what you're driving. Now, another money.
So that's a big thing. And I realized the scenery in all of these that he's showing is just amazing. I swear to you guys, I cannot wait to get out of the US and explore the European region for myself. Oh, I can't wait to have that experience, because when he showed that food, you all know my food is, you're like, oh baby, give me that every day, all day. But yeah, transportation wise, I heard that you guys are public transportation is easy, it's as accessible as in these European regions. So you don't have to worry about that when you're working. Here in the US, depending on where you live, you definitely need to have a car, because you're going to sit in traffic. There's no public transportation for you to transit, for you to move from point A to point B. You got to either carpool with somebody. So at the end of the day, you need to have a ride. And then when he said, look, more is less, in a sense, you get to enjoy and live life more in the European region with whatever you work and get paid with than if you were in the US. That makes sense to me, because I take a vacation and I'm from here, from Alaska and I'm spending a ton load of money with me and the 5 kids. Going to Europe, but then again, European region, I realize it caters to people to come, to walk, to get the little bikes, to get from point A to point B while working there. You understand? And then you're more stress-free. You get to go out, you get to eat on the little bit of salary that you're working. Like I said, you know how to budget and make that salary work for you. So
The thing you'll notice is a bit different is taxes. Yeah, you're going to pay a lot more taxes when you are here in Europe than you are in the US. In general, I'm just going to say that if you're making decent money, a lot more comes out, especially if you're going to Sweden or Norway, Finland. Like, taxes do get a bit higher. So that's one of those things you'll notice in your check, that a lot more is missing when you're working in Europe, but you do get more stuff with it. So that's one of those things like, oh, I do have relatively cheap healthcare or free public healthcare.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe the NHS isn't the greatest, but it's included with living here. So, I guess that's okay. But I will say, like, for the things you're not gonna like, the biggest one that Americans have a tough time adjusting to is European bureaucracy. Like, I know we've got.
Hold on, let's touch on the taxes, because I've heard this one so many times, that one of the differences working in European region versus the US is that the US taxes is so high. I didn't realize it was the other way around, but I can see why the taxes are so high in the European region. And I think I can live with that, because when it boils down to certain things, even pick out just one, healthcare, you're paying, when it comes out of your taxes, you're good to go. You run to the doctor and you'll be fine. It has its perks, prescription, everything is, you understand what I mean? It's covered. You don't have to worry about taking the ambulance, paying $5,000 just for an ambulance ride to go to the. So I can see all the perks of getting high taxes in the European region, because I'm still more at peace than if I was working in the US and go have an accident or have to take an ambulance. That's $5,000 out of my pocket. Worse if I don't have insurance. My taxes don't cover that in the US at all. So you see where I'm coming from. When you look at it, it's way better working in the European region and getting taxed, even though they say it's a ton load, than in the US. Sorry, I'll take the European tax any day, every day, based on certain things that it covers that is going to cost you a house or an arm and a leg here in the US, period.
The DMV in the US, that's our one example of annoying bureaucracy, but oh my gosh. Try to get internet at your house. Try, if you're in France, try to schedule a pickup of that Amazon package with a delivery driver. It's insane, right? The levels of bureaucracy, the level of things you have to go through, the hoops you jump through, the forms you sign, the stamps you need. And a lot of it's these catch-22s, like, oh, hey, I need to get an apartment, but in order to get an apartment, I need a bank account. But in order to get a bank account, I need an apartment where I have an address. The bureaucracies here are such next level that for Americans, they get very frustrated with it. No, another thing I think is important.
Okay, so you're saying in the European region, if you're working, it is difficult to get a bank account. It's difficult to, your Amazon package don't get delivered to your house Or if you have an appointment, you have to make a schedule to meet, find the delivery or get the pickup. That's how it works. They don't just put it. I'm asking, honestly, don't come for me. And he's like, even going to the DMV, is it that you guys are backwards when it comes on to those things? And the US is way better within that kind of bureaucracy? Let me know. Listen how I pronounce the word. Bureaucracy. Let's continue.
Mention about your workplace actually here in Europe is don't expect everyone to fall in line with the boss. Like the boss isn't necessarily God. Now, some parts of Europe, the boss is kind of like a godlike figure, but in general, you have a lot more discussion, a lot more consensus at work than in the US, where it's kind of like, well, the boss says this, so why are we even debating it? Here, you do have that open debate. And for some Americans, they're like, oh my gosh, he's talking back to the boss. What are you doing? You're going to get fired. No, you have much more discussion that's here. And I think one of the reasons why you have that is, another difference is you don't worry about getting fired in Europe like you do in the US.
That dog in the background is going on. The dog is like, listen, I have a 2 cent to make too. The US is just driving me nuts. But anyway, I like that. I like that when working in the European, when you're in the European region and working, your boss doesn't have the final say. The lower man have a say so. Your opinions also count. You know, somebody will hear you out. As in here, the bosses are the God here in the US. Period, point blank. The supervisors, the bosses, it's like everybody afraid of them. And it's sad. It is so sad when you go into these workplaces and you see the hierarchies inside there. It's like you're walking on needles. You tip it in. If whatever the boss says, rule. That's it. There's even if it's the wrong way, and people suck up the bosses here in the US. So that's a definitely big difference between working in the US and working in the European in Europe. There are a lot of people will prefer that they don't have to suck up on what they say. Their opinion counts.
It's like, I think I do a great job where I teach, but every year I'm still worried that I'm not going to get asked to come back the next year. I mean, it's very much a worrisome thing. Like you have the at-will work environment at the US that you never know.
No.
Right? Whereas in Europe, you have a lot more protections. Like you're not worried that you're going to get fired because your boss had a bad day, because your union is there for you, or there's protections by law that if you do get fired, they have to pay you for a year or two or something like that. Like those kind of things make a difference. Mothers, they're not worried about having kids because they have protection for maternity leave, and they get paid maternity leave, paid paternity leave. I mean, those kind of things make a difference. So you do feel more comfortable, like you can share your true feelings about a project. Hey, what do we need to do? And so you have a different mentality. And also, I think another difference is the mentality.
And I think that's one of the reasons why people in the European region are more productive in the workplace and not burnt out and feel like their life does not depend, or they're not, because how should I put this? You don't necessarily stress. You can, when work done, you can just stop and say, okay, that's it. We'll deal with this tomorrow, because at the end of the day, you know you're not getting fired by the way, but on the butt of a whim. You just don't. And that to me is amazing. If you're working in Europe and you say, okay, oh snap, I forgot to finish this. It's 5 o'clock, but I didn't finish it. I'm gonna get fired. Oh, my boss is upset. Oh, I'm gonna get fired. Oh, I can get pregnant, and it's not a stigma where if I get pregnant, or women are treated differently in the workplace other than. Isn't that amazing? That to me is amazing, because here in the US, don't think about the maternity leave. And if you do get maternity leave, don't expect to be paid. Don't expect if the boss is in a bad mood, you won't get fired. Don't expect that because in the US, it's definitely going to happen. If the boss don't like you, you're gone. If he's in a bad mood, you're gone. And it's good to know that the union work for you in Europe. In America, the union do not work. Look here, man.
of the workforce, it's not as much like grind and the hustle and I need my side hustle kind of stuff like you have in the US. It's much more of that laid back attitude, that
Relax.
laissez-faire attitude when it comes to work. And then I want to mention one thing that I did notice when I worked in Europe is you're not going to have as much diversity in your workforce here in
Oh,
Europe as you do in the US. Just because Europe in general, like you're in Italy, it's full of Italians. So there's a lot more Italians, a lot less diversity in the workers than you have in the US. It was a melting pot of places. Now, if you go to like
okay.
bigger cities, yeah, if you're in Milan or Paris or London, you're gonna have more of that. Like the UK is much more diversity, France is much more diversity, but that's one of those
Okay.
things when you work, you'll notice that there's not a lot of diversity sometimes in your workplace when you're here in Europe. So if you've been an expat working in Europe, tell us, where have you worked? What was your experience? And what are some of the differences that you had? And don't worry, I'm gonna do a video on this about what Europeans find strange about working in the US. Like, boss, why do I have to be here 2 hours early and stay 2 hours late?
Uh,
Yeah, we're going to talk about that as well. Anyway, I wish you all the best. I'll say bye from here in Torino. And
Bye.
also, I loved working abroad. I mean, literally, it was like 10, 15 years, okay? So I would definitely do it again because I loved working in Europe. And I wish you all the best. Au revoir, or
revoir.
tschüss, or auf Wiedersehen, or arrivederci, or ciao, or whatever.
Something.
Whichever bye you want in Europe, go ahead and say it. Bye.
Bye. Like that ending. The way he said diversity, I said diversity. You see the difference in pronunciation in word, but I can understand why he said like certain places there's not much diversity. It's basically who is there. But in the melting pot with some European region where a lot of people go, like even in the UK, where it's a mixture of everybody, there's a melting pot, and then you can see the diversity within the workplace. So that makes sense. So that's something, depending on where you go, like he said, that's something to look forward to when working in Europe versus working in America. But he made some valid points. Some of I think what people need to understand that America just runs differently, and do not expect what you do in America to take place in whichever European country that you go to. That's how I look at it. Do your research, get to know where you're going, understand how the people behave, their culture. All of these things need to come into play before you become an expat. I believe that 100%, especially if you're staying and you know that you're going to work within that European region that you actually move to. But the one with the taxes, I don't see anything. I'm on board with that because at the end of the day, like I said, you don't have to worry. Certain stresses you don't have to worry about, especially healthcare and even tuition, going to school, all of these things, and you get a high tax, and then you get work is work, and when you step outside of work, you have life in Europe. In America, work is work. Work is your life. That's how America run. Believe me, that's how it's run. It's crazy. Guys, the sun is coming in. The snow is outside. We got a little snow last night, but the sun is coming in. I'm about to rush out to get the kids from school. Listen to me explain to you guys. But yeah, we got a little snow last night. Let you guys see. It's on the rooftop of my... I don't know if you guys can see or the sun came in, but there's a little on the rooftop. Ooh, the sun. See, there's some on my balcony right there. So we got some snow last night. So that's why sitting here chatting to you. But I'm about to run out and get those kids from school. Love you guys to the max, though. Let me know your thoughts on this one. Do you agree with Mark from Walter's World or not? And what are some advice would you give to people who decide to move to Europe and work there versus when they were living in the US? A lot of people here are moving. They want better. They are moving. They want a more stress-free life and want to experience life outside of the US. With that said, it's the Island Girl. I'm running out of here. Don't forget to hit the like, hit the subscribe if you're new here. Be good, be kind, be safe. Love you guys to the max. Tell me what you'd like me to check out next. Your girl got you. Bye. Did I say love you guys? I think I did. Did I say did I say ciao? Did I say later? Did I say Irie? Anyway you want to say bye, I just did. All right? Later. Bye.